The idea of becoming a full-time content creator is an attractive one to many people. But when you talk to people who are actually doing it, you find that it takes more than just putting videos up online and expecting money to appear in your bank account. Plus, the people who do it in a sustainable way always do it in light of who they are and how their story has shaped them along the way. Javier Mercedes began in the world of audio engineering, recording sessions with former US presidents and A-list movie stars. He expanded his career into videography and television editing for ESPN, ABC, and Fox Sports. And today, he's a full-time YouTube creator and online entrepreneur. In this first of a two-part conversation, you'll hear how Javier's background shaped his creative path and how he uses his skills to serve a massive crowd of people and support his family as a full-time creator. Get ready to take notes on how you can take control of your creative life with part one of our conversation with Javier Mercedes. Welcome to the Story Greenlight podcast, where we're all about empowering creators like you to tell your stories, connect with your audience, and create the impact that you were put on this planet to make. My name is Jeff Barch. I'm a coach, author, and entrepreneur with over 20 years of experience shaping content for ABC, NBC, Universal, Disney, Apple, and a whole bunch of others. My team and I support creators with followings in the hundreds to the many millions. At Story Greenlight, we believe that you matter, your message matters, and the world needs to hear what you have to say. Dude, it is so good to see you. It has been a while, as tends to be with COVID life and post-COVID life. Mm-hmm. Where are you right now? So you're in Austin, yes?
Yes, I'm in Austin, Texas.
You have we both have two young children.
Yeah.
How old are your kids right now?
3 and 5. One of them's in school, the other one's in daycare.
Okay, yeah. My son is 6 and my little daughter is 3. So I get
the idea of trying to avoid sickness when your kids are in 1 daycare and 2 school. It's like they definitely do get they catch everything else and bring it home. So yeah.
So what's the COVID scoreboard for the Mercedes household?
My wife has gotten it. We're vaxxed and like boosted and everything, but she's still got it. But I have thankfully not had it. What about yourself?
Same. And incredibly, none of us have gotten any of the variants. So that's kind of blowing our collective minds. So if we can keep that up, all the better. So for folks in the Story Greenlight community who have not yet met you and they ran into you in the elevator, what's your pitch? Who are you? Who do you help, and how do you help them?
Yeah, my name's Javier Mercedes. I am a video editor by trade, and at this point, what I mostly do is create YouTube tutorials about Premiere Pro on YouTube.
Very cool. Very cool. In the time-honored tradition of storytelling, saying, here's where we are, now how did we get here? I'd be curious to know. I have a special place in my heart for people like yourself who have a background in audio. Because that is, when I was growing up, I felt like a jack of all trades, master of none, but it was all involved with music, recording, arranging, composition, orchestrating. I was a composition major for a while, audio work. I did front of house stuff. I did monitor work. I did recording and all that kind of stuff mixed together. And then there was video and all that other stuff. So, what did you really get started in audio in general?
Yeah, I'm laughing. If you're watching this, you can see the smile on my face because everything you just described is basically my background.
Okay.
Before I got to being a video editor.
Okay.
So the very short version of this story is I have always been obsessed from a very, very young age with anything that is audio and video tech related. Mm-hmm. There's home videos of me as young as being a 3-year-old walking up to our tape player and maybe Michael Jackson was playing on it. And you can see me lean over to the tape player and I just put my ear against the speaker and I just like am trying to decipher what is going on. Like, how is this sound coming out of a tape player? Fast forward a little bit, I'm a little bit older and I'm using tape players still to hit the record button and being fascinated with the idea that you can record things and play them back. And I would take our tape players, put them up against the TV, and while my siblings were playing video games, I would record them playing the music onto a tape and make these like mixtapes of, I guess like normal Nintendo music.
Yeah.
And I would then create my own kind of radio shows on these tapes. So I would have my,
This
siblings.
is amazing.
I would have my siblings not play the level. So I would have them stand in the corner so no sound effects or anything would happen. And it would just be the music. Then I would record the music and then have them go play. And then after that, I would go and kind of do an interview with them. And then I would stop the tape and then have them do another kind of level or anything like that. So after a while, what I would end up doing is creating these huge mixtapes, and it would be this, it'd just be this like piles and piles of me just having normal Nintendo music doing this like radio show with my brothers. Fast forward a lot further into the future, I get to high school. I'm the kid where all of my friends come to our quote unquote recording studio in the basement. And I am the one that's really trying to figure out how to use a DAW, but for audio. And this is back in the day where it's like if you wanted Pro Tools, you had to buy those huge systems.
Oh,
so I think I was
$100,000, like $200,000 rigs.
Yeah,
or whatever they were.
Cakewalk Studio, I believe,
dude,
is what I was.
I cannot tell you the last time someone mentioned Cakewalk. When I was in junior high, my first MIDI multi-track sequencer was Cakewalk 5.0 for DOS.
Did you use an Eddie roll to get into your computer? That was so my audio interface was a 2-track Eddie roll going in using Cakewalk to create our albums. We would create these albums, and I like this is multi-track in the sense like it's still digital, right? But I can't I'm not at the point where I know how to record things and multi-track. So we would record whole songs, but in the same sense as back in the old school days of tape. So we would maybe record drums, and then I would keep consolidating and layering everything on top. Like I didn't have split layers.
Oh, so you just bounced everything down?
Yeah.
Oh, dude.
So
that's gutsy.
I mean, but in terms of like getting things right and making sure that everything was stacked correctly, so you further down the line it all sounded correct. Like we definitely had to get good takes. But we would make those albums, go sell them out of our lockers for like $2 and make that dough back in high school.
Yes, you did.
Yeah.
Oh, so good.
Fast forward a little bit. I'm getting to college. I have a huge passion for the whole audio thing. And I also I also have a passion for video and kind of photography at the same time. But like I know what I'm doing a little bit more with audio, but it's kind of interesting the parallels that happens between when you're editing audio and when you're editing video, because there's some similarities there. So like even when I was in high school, I was still kind of like fooling around with my dad's videotape camera, and we would make some like side videos in just about like anything, because I mean, when you're high school and you're bored, you want to like just create whatever. And I end up going to college for music technology. And the thing about that was I had no idea how to play an instrument. And when you go to some place like Ball State University to get a music tech degree, you have to graduate by going through the School of Music and playing an instrument. And at that point, I was playing things like Mary Had a Little Lamb on my piano.
Right.
And I was like, all right, if I'm going to go to college for this, I might as well just start really rigorously studying piano, because I know that if if I'm going to do a producer thing or whatever, just knowing piano and what you were talking about earlier with MIDI, it just makes more sense. So, hey, I'll start taking piano lessons.
So you started piano in college?
Yeah.
In music, at music college?
At the collegiate level. Yeah. So
holy moly.
So if you can imagine somebody that had the heart and the passion to learn this stuff, but didn't have the technical skills, that was me. The faculty, I was sweating bullets, and I was like trying to play. This is how bad I was. I got to school and I called him Chopin instead of Chopin. For anybody that doesn't know composition, you don't go to a school of music and say, "Hey, I'm going to be playing some Chopin."
Oh, dude. Oh man.
So anyhow,
fish out of water, but the fish desperately wants to be there on the land.
I know this is kind of tangential, but I think it lends itself to if you have a goal in mind and you want to put forth the effort to reach that goal. That's where I was, and that's why I'm kind of going to going on to this tangent. When I got to the school, like I was saying, you have to audition in order to get into the School of Music to take the recording classes that I want to take. So my mom's driving me to Muncie, Indiana, and while we're in the car, I'm sitting there with my fingers on the dashboard, just like trying to practice the fingerings and just going through everything that I can, and also trying to remember all the different music theory and all those other aspects that you have to test to get into the School of Music. As you can probably guess, if some guy that's arriving saying Chopin instead of Chopin didn't do too well. I completely bombed. I was so nervous because I didn't really have any recital experience, and now I'm going in front of these doctorates in a amazing music hall on this piano, this grand piano that's like way more money than I've ever like imagined in my life.
You're probably sitting down at a 9-foot Steinway or something.
Yeah. Oh. And it's like, I start hitting, I ask them if I can like, just like get used to the piano, and I like start playing some stuff. And I'm like, this is like going from a beater Honda Civic to like a Ferrari or something.
Yes.
And I probably blacked out because I played maybe 2 lines that I had just by muscle memory. And because of those situations and what I've come to learn when you are learning piano and memorizing things, like I just didn't have those traits. So I started playing, and I just messed up everything, and like got up and just said like, I'm so sorry. Like I explained to them like my situation, and like, look, I like back in high school, I love recording arts and all that kind of stuff. So they allowed me to come in on a probationary status, which means I'm not taking the classes that are like, I'm not into the School of Music in terms of underneath a doctorate piano person getting my degree by playing the material. Like I still have to get into the School of Music by doing auditions, but they don't want me to get behind. So I can still take the theory classes and the written classes and music history and all that stuff, which I'm glad they let me do. Fast forward a semester, I ended up doing a little bit better, but I'm still not at the technical caliber where I need to be. Then fast forward another semester. This is a full year has gone by, and this is my last chance. And they finally put me underneath one of the doctorates, Dr. Helton. I'll never forget, man. There was a moment where I went from being like, I guess doing piano with like some master's students and somebody that I was learning with back in my hometown to getting underneath a doctorate, and like just everything that you can learn from skills and everything. It's just the way they teach is so good. And I went from like 0 to 1,000 real quick. And by the time I got to that audition, I was a completely new person. And I aced the audition, got into the School of Music. Fast forward to like my senior year, I was able to do a couple internships during my time at Ball State, one in Atlanta at a recording studio and another one at Interlochen, which was live sound. And I did so well in those roles at the two separate internships, as well as some stuff at the classes where I switched, like they promoted me from being like one of the workers to a lead role. And in that lead role, I was able to teach all of the other people coming in all of the different, I don't know, everything that I've learned and bring them up to speed on the processes of wherever I was working. So if it was live sound, it's like, here's how we set up front of house and monitors for this. If it was at the recording studio, I used to be an intern. And now I'm like somebody that kind of knows the flow. So I would teach other interns how to be like a good intern during recording sessions and other things like that. I ended up graduating and I moved down to Atlanta, Georgia, and I ended up getting a full-time job at a recording studio for 4 years while I was there. Yeah. And that was particularly like just in terms of like learning how to interact and work in a professional creative environment. That's where I kind of got those chops. Just a brief like overview. I got to record former President Carter's audiobook, one of them. I got to work with Morgan Freeman. I have a recording of him saying my name, which is pretty cool.
What's the best part of paying taxes? You hear that, Javier?
I got to work with the Property Brothers for a whole summer, like a whole bunch of actors and actresses, because in Atlanta, there's a bunch of tax and I don't know if this is still true, but while I was living there, there's a bunch of tax incentives for productions to be shot in Atlanta. And my role was to record the ADR post-production material while actors and actresses were in Atlanta shooting their movies. I would be the person that's behind the soundboard. They would come to our recording studio, and while some other production that they were working on was in post-production in LA, they would satellite into our studio to get the actor or actress on microphone to record all of their ADR or all of the audio that's recorded after the fact to help cover up for times when there's an ambulance in the background, or maybe they just needed to get more audio to fill in the story, anything like that. I was still always like in kind of a role where I would love to teach other people coming to the studio. And the studio that I worked at had an amazing internship program where they, like every quarter, they would have 2 new interns come in, which is like awesome to give people experience in the professional world. And they paid their interns, which was like, I love that. Wow. Anyhow, I would always want to teach them as much as I could because like I was in their position. But the thing is, I didn't want to teach them in the traditional sense. I liked creating video tutorials because it's something that you can scale. And it's like, hey, I could like send you this video that I made on how I set up this mixing board or how I soldered this audio cable. And then you can watch that. And if you have other questions, like you can like let me know, that type of thing.
Sure.
So that's like kind of the initial steps to creating video tutorials. I eventually picked up a camera and started doing video freelancing while I was in Atlanta. I got a couple gigs, and my wife and I eventually moved to Austin, Texas, where I got a full-time job as a video person, like an in-house video person at a media company here in Austin, TheCHIVE.
Okay.
And that's where I worked there for maybe 5 years full time. Eventually, I was the lead video editor at that place. And the cool thing about working there was every single day was a new type of video project. Yeah. One day we could be working on a beauty reel. The next day is kind of like a mini documentary. The next day could be something like some sponsored piece of content that's a comedy. Another one then is going to be like a charity piece. And that's where day to day in terms of a creative process, one, I'm getting to work with a team. 2, I get to like, for some of these, I'm the person that's shooting it and editing it. And then I'm also like, you may be involved in the process of pre-production and then post-production. I also was the audio recordist for their podcast while I was there too. It was like a whole bunch of creative things that I think lend itself to a YouTube creator nowadays, where you have to be, like you said, a jack of all trades.
Sure.
By the end of my time there, I think we had about 16 people in the production department. And we would, whenever we would onboard a new editor, a new video person, they would like sit them down with me for about 2 weeks, like little period where they would shadow me so I could teach them the process and all of our like archiving things and like everything, so they could get up to speed. And the thing is, these people were very, very capable as editors, as videographers and things of that nature. But it would just be something where they need to learn the process of how our company works. And at the end of each time I was teaching a new person how to do things the way that we did at our company, they always came back and they were like, man, I'm so glad that you taught me X, Y, and Z, because now I'm faster at this or more efficient at that, or I didn't think about this. And the crazy thing to me was I really liked teaching, and I love the creative process of doing those videos. But if every single person that I worked with gave me the same feedback of having a really good time, and they kind of advanced their skill set when they were working with me, it kind of gave me the light bulb in my head of like, the place where I could scale a trait like this is YouTube and creating tutorials.
Pay attention to this ongoing stream of positive input here.
Yeah. So while I was working at TheCHIVE, I also started to do my YouTube channel, and a lot of it stemmed from challenges that I was facing while I was an editor. It's certain things like export settings, or when you needed to do a certain transition, or how to do certain like keyboard shortcuts to make it the fastest workflow or most efficient workflow as possible. And even some as simple as how do you create proxies for like Red cameras, or like things that I didn't really see a lot of at the time on the internet, but it's like these were things that I was encountering all the time
and are utterly baffling to people who don't know how to figure it out.
Yeah, and I tried to approach it from the standpoint of there has to be so many people out there that have maybe done video editing, freelancing. They know how to like use Premiere Pro, but there's simple things that like when you run into certain challenges, like for instance, when you're in my video where I talk about syncing to time code, that's not like something that you do on a regular basis if you're just creating content for yourself. But the moment you get thrown into a situation where you need to edit as a part of a production, time code becomes a pretty significant piece of that puzzle.
Really big deal.
And I don't want that to be something that deters or doesn't give the opportunity to people that actually have the skill set to edit video. I mean, if you have a good working theory and you have the talent to edit video, you don't want something like time code to hold them back. And when I create those tutorials, I think I say something along the lines of like, you know how to chop and cut things up in an editor. Once you know how certain things work, you don't want this to be a hindrance. Mm-hmm. And like when it came to syncing time code, like here's the different challenges that I came into, and here's how I solved them. So if you're in that same situation where maybe you've already been editing for a very long time, but you just have this new task that you have to know how to do, here's the most simplest and efficient way to do it that I've found. And trying to approach it, my different tutorials from then on out this same way of, look, if you need to accomplish this task, here's the actual way that it may not be like when you look up how to do it on the manufacturer's website, like this is how you do it. Like, no, if you're in the real world and a producer is breathing down your back and you need to get that product out at a specific timeline, you have to problem solve this way. So this may not be the best way or the most efficient way, but when these situations happen, this is what worked for me.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I approach those, I guess, mid-tier type of tutorials. And there's other tutorials where I try and approach them from, if this is somebody that has never touched the editing software, let me walk you through in that way. And all along, I just try and ask myself, if I am somebody looking up this information, is this a video that I would want to watch? Did I get the information that I needed? And would I stick around or want to learn from this person after the fact?
Yeah. I got to tell you, with your background, working at the level that you've worked at for so many years, there are the expectations of super high quality. I mean, you're doing major motion picture ADR. You're recording audio for former presidents for their audiobooks. I mean, you're doing all this stuff at the super high level. And then when you end up on YouTube, how do you come to terms with, okay, you have this experience level way up here. And how do you figure out what is actually necessary within this level of polish and execution on a medium like YouTube? And how have you seen that change over years? Because I'd be willing to bet that the threshold is rising in certain places.
Yeah, I love that question. And it's something that I always ask myself. And it's at this point in time, I am a full-time YouTube creator. In fact, literally 10 minutes before we got hopped on this call, I got a call from a past client of mine, and it was going to be for a whole quarter long worth of work that I was going to go shoot and edit and everything. And I had to decline them because I have now I have sponsorship content that I'm working on, and to me, it's my time is better served creating content for myself. If that, I know that kind of sounds narcissistic, but
no, not at all. It just means you're in a place where it just makes sense, where it doesn't make sense for so many other people.
Yeah, and I'm comfortable with where I'm at in my career, knowing that I've had other situations or experiences where I have been in those really high level professional environments where I've had to produce the results. Not only that, but I know that I did produce those results once. I made some content, or I was a part of a team for ESPN for a document series that it was a feature length documentary on esports.
Okay.
That was my first thing doing for an ESPN thing. And that same producer then hired me a month later to do some stuff for the Super Bowl. Same format. This is an hour-long piece of content that's being nationally broadcast. I was hired by CBS to do some stuff for the March Madness. And again, these people have worked with me once, and they are still contacting me about certain aspects. And part of me was wondering, who am I, this imposter syndrome of who am I to be online trying to teach these things, but also if I am not practicing what I teach in terms of this kind of dual world where you have to be a professional editor and kind of creating things in the professional environment where I can say something like, oh, I created something, it aired on ESPN, versus I just released a tutorial a couple, maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, where all it does is teach you how to rotate clips in Premiere Pro. That's it. It's one of the most basic things. Mm-hmm. But that video, in terms of when I released it, gets a lot of views. And to me, I'm completely comfortable with who I am today as a creator in knowing that I would much rather spend my time putting as much effort as possible into creating the most efficient, fun tutorials that you can look for when it comes to video editing, as opposed to splitting my time up trying to freelance and do the YouTube thing. I think if people want to learn a specific task or something like video editing, if somebody is completely devoted to how to do that and like putting all of their effort into creating videos about that subject, at this point in time, like I said, I'm completely comfortable in saying that, like, no, that is my full-time gig. Like, at this point in time, what I do is just create tutorials about video editing. Now, I do realize that can bring up some questions about, like, well, what do you do, like, besides making these tutorials? What do you do, like, what do you actually video edit? And then, like I'm saying right now, all I do is edit my YouTube videos, which is, like, kind of cool.
You have the difference between one's professional career and then you have one's online presence. There is a balance that I've been looking to strike within myself. I mean, for a long time, there was the stuff that I was doing for broadcast networks for all my stuff. I mean, that was my main thing. And to this day, it is still the largest chunk of my income. When you build a career in LA and your entire network is those gigs at that level, you get used to earning really good money. And it takes a lot of learning and a lot of doing to build a business that can replace that income that you've become accustomed to. And I'm still working on that. I mean, I'll tell anyone who asks that. So the fact that you've come to a point where you are able to switch that around, that is crazy cool, because all of a sudden, not only do you have all that experience, you also have the autonomy to support yourself through your own pursuits. So we talked before we started rolling about how the proportion of your income has shifted in different ways over different years. How has that worked for you?
Yeah, so I'll kind of start back when I was working at TheCHIVE, picking up on the storyline. There was one day where I was still underneath 1,000 subscribers, and I saw like maybe 2 cents hit, and the whatever, like, analytics inside YouTube, and my mind was like, "Whoa, what? This is real?" So I don't know what it is now, but I know back then it was, you had to at least make $100 from AdSense to actually get physical money or digital money, whatever it was, to see that money in your actual bank account. You had to hit that threshold of $100.
Sure.
So once I hit that threshold, it was really cool. Fast forward a little bit more, and I was maybe making like $1 a day or like something like that, and it was so cool to go to work
AdSense.
and just.
From AdSense.
Yeah, and AdSense.
Okay.
Yeah. And it was so cool, even though it's like $1 or maybe 50 cents a day, to go to work and be like, yes, I have a full-time salary and everything. I have health benefits and all this other stuff, but like, I got some passive income coming in. Like,
yes, you did.
Every single day. Like, I'm sitting here and like, I'm making money from the thing that I made like a couple months ago. This is awesome.
That is awesome.
So once I saw that it was possible, I really started to double down. And props to Cody Wanner, our guy, I guess our
mutual friend, yeah,
with nosmallcreator. Once I got introduced to that group, and I think it was No Small November or something, whatever it was a month long of vlogging. And I did that whole process where I made a video every single day for a month. And that kind of like, it put me into creative overload where I got so much better. I was so much better of an editor. I was better.
We're totally leaving that in there. That is amazing. That's a new word. You just made up a new word, dude.
Yeah. I got so much better. I got so much better at being an editor in my professional career because of all of the different ways that I had to problem solve for the challenges that I was experiencing on daily vlogging. It was something that I'd never encountered before in terms of meeting a deadline and just being okay with having to just, if it fits, it ships. Like you gotta get it out on the deadline.
Yeah.
And I took so many things that I learned from daily vlogging and put them into my professional work days, and I got so much more efficient as an editor. Now, I don't recommend, that being said, I don't recommend anyone doing that, because like my at-home life just went boom. Like I wasn't spending as much time with my kids. I wasn't spending as much time with my wife. And it was very like, they were so supportive. I mean, my kids were very young, so it's not like they could know, but my wife was so supportive. And then after the fact, it was like, I'm glad that I did this, never going to do it again. So if anybody's thinking about daily vlogging, do with that information what you may.
Well, which even after the fact, I mean, we both met our mutual friend Cody Wanner when he was in the stage of doing an entire year of daily vlogging. I can't even imagine what that would be like in terms of maintaining any sort of family sanity. Never mind personal sanity, never mind anything else.
Yeah. And again, props to my wife for putting up with me during that time period. What that did do is it really helped me understand quicker. It helped me fail a lot faster at what works, what does not work on my channel. I started my channel as a cooking channel. I was cooking my way through Gordon Ramsay's cookbook. I loved learning from that cookbook, but I am not a cook. I am much better at cooking, but I don't like, that's not where my passion is not teaching people how to cook. I'd much rather go through the process of learning how to cook something from a cookbook and then like tasting and eating it later. But in terms of like, let me tell you how to cut a green pepper, like that's not a skill set that like I learned and then like, let me be a professional in teaching you how to do that. I quickly learned that it was much better for me to do video-esque type of material. Now, fast forward a little bit later, I see that AdSense revenue is coming in, and I just now set a goal for myself. Like, I want to get 1,000 subscribers by, I think it was like in October or something like that. I forget the date, but I had like maybe 700 subscribers. And at that point in time, we were going to have my second kid coming on the way. And my wife and I sat down and had a discussion of like, well, if you wanted to pursue the whole YouTube thing, like we're not getting any younger. And also our responsibilities are not getting any smaller with another kid on the way. You should probably go for it right now, as opposed to a couple years down the line where it won't be as easy for me to move as fluid as I am now.
Okay.
And I was like, you know what? Okay. So I walk into work and I'm like bawling tears. These are the guys that like gave me a chance in terms of like giving me a professional video job. I've been working for them for X amount of time. And I'm just like, all right, guys, I see potential with this YouTube thing. So I'm going to go for it. And props to them, because this gets to the whole percentage things that we were talking about earlier. They're like, couldn't be more happy for you. They even let me take like a monitor, some video gear and other things like that to start my like YouTube thing. In fact, my computer monitor that I'm still using is from that previous job.
Awesome.
And the cool thing is they allowed me to still freelance. So my first, I want to say like year, I was 90% freelance, 10%, maybe like 5% YouTube income, 5% affiliate links. So when I started, I was making more money on Amazon affiliate links, because as a small channel, you can do a review of a product. And if that video takes off, you can have revenue from those affiliate links. If people aren't aware, that's where if you are talking about a product or promoting a product, and if, let's say I did a review of a audio recorder, and like, if you want to check this out, click the link in the description below. They click that link, that puts some sort of tag onto it that associates it with me, with a place like Amazon.com. And if they buy anything on Amazon, then I get a percentage of that money because I was the person that drove the traffic to Amazon.com.
You're their mini marketing division to get traffic to their site.
Yeah, I know Amazon can get some flack for just who they are as a company, but in terms of like supporting people like myself, it was awesome. Just the type of the affiliate program that they have. I was making significantly more, and by significant, maybe 1,000 or something like that, but I was still making like so much more money doing affiliate type of material than my AdSense in the beginning. And for the most part, I had to take on any and every freelance gig that came my way. If it was something like, hey, can you do this really quick for $100? Like, yes. Can you like do this for free with potential for other stuff? Like I was just grinding, trying to get my name out there as a freelancer, because now I don't have that consistent paycheck coming in, and we have another baby on the way. If people are deciding to go full-time on YouTube, one of the biggest things that I tell them is make sure that you have health insurance. If you are not in a situation where either you're under your parents' health insurance, so if you're 25 or younger, and you want to go full-time on YouTube, that's probably the best time. But for me, my wife had the full-time job with the health benefits, so it was great. Like I still had health insurance. I think that's the biggest thing in having like a safety net of income to fall back on, because you have to like, obviously there's exceptions, but you have to really, really, really grind in the beginning to see any kind of income start to come in that actually matters.
Yeah.
In the background, during this whole time period, I make an effort to do 3 videos a week. I have my podcast on Wednesdays. I have a video editing tutorial on Mondays, and I have a gear review on Fridays. That's the typical week. Sometimes it just doesn't happen like that. Maybe I'll have 2 videos, but I basically come out with the podcast every single Wednesday and one of those other 2. And the reason why I'm doing those gear reviews is because that's where the actual income from doing this whole online thing, that's where it was coming from.
So that weekly rhythm of the gear review drives your affiliate traffic and your affiliate income.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure. I start to see a little bit more of traction from the YouTube AdSense because I'm also sticking to the whole Premiere Pro video editing type of thing. So that's like my content is driven a lot by search. There are kind of 2 kind of creators that I guess 2 categories of creators where your viewership could come from, and mine is very dependent upon search. Now that I'm further along in my career, I've met a lot of other YouTube creators, and I know that this isn't the case for everyone.
It's not normal.
There's great, amazing creators that they're very personality driven, and that's what drives their channel. Like people come to see them. Now mine, I would love for that to be the thing, but I'm realistic in my expectations. Like I understand that if you're finding me, it's probably because you're looking to do something or looking how to do something with a software like Premiere Pro. My goal though is that if you do watch something of mine, that it's the next time you look for how to do something, you'll click on my video rather than someone else's because you liked the time that you spent on my channel. Like fast forward another year into my career when I'm going full time, I'm starting to get much bigger gigs. This is where the ESPNs and the CBSs start coming in, where I can now start turning down some of the smaller gigs. I have a better chance of getting called up. And if I can take 1 or 2 of those gigs, that will give me enough money for maybe 2 to 3 months on end, where if I just go for a week to LA, work on this production, and then I get like a huge check at the end of all of that, that gives me enough on the back end to be like, all right, I've made enough for these months to just supply living costs. So now I'm just going to take all of that extra time that I don't have to be doing freelance stuff to completely focus on YouTube content.
That's part one of our conversation with Javier Mercedes. Next time, we go on a deep dive on how he took his income from 90% high-paying freelance work and 10% from other income streams to flipping that ratio upside down. Plus, how Javier built his YouTube presence such that he's now doing ongoing brand deals with his dream multi-billion-dollar brand, and they approached him. And if you're a creator who wants to unlock the next level of creativity and impact in your content, then you should join us in the Green Room. It is our private community here in Story Greenlight that's all about helping creators like you tell your stories, connect with your audience, and get things done with the support of a community of creators like you. You can get full access to the Green Room for a month for free. You can get started right now at the link in the description below. I'll see you there.